In today's show, young Hansen is headed to the G League for the weekend, and the Blazers are headed for an NBA Cup showdown in Houston. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, we're talking young Hansen. He's headed to the G League. He's going to play 2 games over the weekend and then rejoin the big club. The Blazers are prioritizing reps for their rookie big man. Plus, a showdown in Houston Friday evening with the Rockets, with NBA Cup standing implications on the line. It's a cup game. We'll talk about that in the second segment. And finally, the Blazers defense has slipped a little bit over the last 6 games, or the last couple weeks. I want to talk about some changes in the defense that have happened. I don't think they are directly responsible for that. I think they're more of a response to the personnel. But the way they have played has changed, and they have been not as good as of late, albeit not through too many games. Let's start with Hansen, though. Your boy has not played in 6 straight games. He has not played a game in November, has not played a game since October 29th. Basically, in the beginning of the season, Hansen was getting some cameo appearances in the first half. He was playing, nominally 3 to 4.5, 3 to 6 minutes at the very, very most, but really like 3 to 4 minutes in the first half, and then typically not getting second half burn. He had never, in his run of play to begin the season, had played even double-digit minutes. He had never cracked the 9-minute mark. In fact, he played 8 and some change in one game. He was a spot minute player, and he was struggling in a way that perhaps the Blazers did not. Their front office certainly said, and the former coach, Chauncey Billups, I guess the coach in... I guess he's the ousted coach. He's still technically the coach, right? The ousted coach, Chauncey Billups, in the front office kind of portrayed Hansen like he was going to be a big part of the plan and ready to play right away. And that was clearly untrue and perhaps a misstep in sort of communicating. But once he got on the court, he struggled in preseason and he struggled during the regular season. And it was pretty clear that if they were going to try to be competitive, giving him minutes every single night was not going to be the healthiest thing for this roster, because he was just struggling in a way that is very normal for someone his age, and making he's 20 years old and he's making a jump, in a pretty serious jump in competition from the CBA to the NBA. And clearly, just you watch him out on the court, it was he was not ready for this transition. But he still needs to play. And he's not going to play on this team. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Young players on developmental teams that don't have postseason aspirations, they should play. And it's wrong when young players don't play on really good teams that are really bad teams. That's always strange to me. It's hello, Brooklyn Nets. Y'all drafted 5 rookies. Put those dudes on the court. You stink anyways. But for a team like the Blazers have postseason aspirations, and the way that the rest of the sort of West below them is crumbling a little bit, hello, Memphis and the Los Angeles Clippers, the path to being a postseason team is very clear. So they don't want to not waste is the wrong word. They don't want to hand out minutes to a developmental player that is going to struggle in those minutes. They want to give those minutes to Rob Williams, and DuER has earned some extra minutes. So it became a priority to find a way to get Hansen on the court. And I mentioned this in an episode I recorded earlier this week, that I thought the G League was an option for him, the inevitable stint down in the G League. And the Blazers on Thursday announced officially that Hansen is headed to the G League. But in the past, he had just gone down there for 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, sometimes whatever, the length of one practice. He is now heading to the Remix to play games. He's going to play 2 games. He's going to play Friday at Valley Suns against the Phoenix's G League affiliate, and then he's going to play Sunday on the road at the South Bay Lakers. That is the Los Angeles Lakers G League affiliate. So he's going to play 2 games on the West Coast. I don't know where the Mountain West is really where Arizona's located, but the Western United States. going to play 2 games, and then he's going to the plan is for him to rejoin the team when they're back in Portland. Blazers will finish their road trip Sunday against Dallas, travel back Monday, be back in Portland. Obviously, they're not going to practice on Monday. They don't practice anyways, but certainly not going to practice right after a road trip. And they play a game Tuesday against Phoenix, where they'll be resplendent into their new PDX carpet jerseys. You'll get to see Hansen at least wearing PDX carpet warm-ups. Doubt we'll see him in a jersey. So I had mentioned that this was an option, but when I was like, because I think he just needs to play. They need Hansen to play. And the G League plays fast. The Remix play at a breakneck pace, probably even faster than the Blazers, who play one of the fastest paces in the league. Hansen needs conditioning. He needs to get up to sort of NBA speed where it's end-to-end all the time. He needs to get a little bit stronger. He needs to figure out how he is going to score at the NBA level. I don't think he's going to get a perfect run of that in the G League. Like, he's just not going to play like... He's not going to face the Domantas Sabonis level of strength and sort of along the front line. He's not going to, he had a pretty nice game in the preseason against Drew Eubanks. He's not even going to face players that are as like Drew Eubanks would be a cut above the sort of quality of center he's going to face in the G League. But the pace and just getting out on the court is incredibly important. Just the reps, right? Like, he just needs to play basketball. And because he hasn't played in 2 weeks, 6 straight DNP CDs, that's did not play coach's decision. The Blazers just prioritize, like, let's get him out on the court and let him go and play some basketball. I had mentioned in my, I bet they send Hansen to the G League in the near future because it's just, clear that he needs to play, that the games I had circled were that first week of December when the Blazers play 5 consecutive home games over the course of 10 days, and saying, yeah, you could get him down there for, 4 of 5 or 5 of 5, depending on what you want to do, and then have him in, close to home. And when I spoke to a team source about the Hansen's G League assignment, they indicated that was their initial guess as well. But I think what changed was the Blazers kind of just looked out at the schedule and said, why are we wasting 2 weeks with this? What good are we doing Hansen by saying, you know what, we really want you, we don't want you to be, we want you to be with the team, and there's value with the team, and we want your G League assignments to be in our gym with our, in at home. And I think they do still want that, and I would still point to that week of December as a likely chance for him to maybe revisit the G League. But I think what changed was that they said, yeah, if we're healthy, he's not going to play, and he's seen the first part of this road trip. He's got the rhythm. We've kind of, the sort of non-basketball acclimation to the NBA, just the sort of the professional rhythm of what it's like to be an NBA player. He's kind of understood, and now we got to get him on the court. It's really important the most important thing for basketball players, young basketball players, is really to play basketball. If you really never get any action, it's he can drill a little bit and watch film and talk about stuff and get some court and skill work, but playing, he needs to actually play. And that's what the G League will offer him, is 2 chances to actually play. So, I do think there probably was a time maybe a week ago when the Blazers said, yeah, we can wait till December. I think it became clear just how the schedule is going to pop up and how, they're just willingness to get Hansen minutes. It changed. So they're going to give him road. He'll get his first 2 G League appearances on the road at Valley Suns and at the South Bay Lakers. So I think this is good for everybody. This is good for the Blazers because it's, the reason you have a G League team is exactly to utilize this, to give him minutes that he's not going to get in the league. It's good for Hansen because he needs to play basketball. I think develop your confidence, develop some go-to moves. The big thing for him is he just doesn't have a way to score on offense in the league. Well, in the G League, there are occasionally guys put up big numbers, right? Find out how you score at the G League level, because I don't think the 4 dribbles behind your back spin move is no, it needs to be way, 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 way more efficient in terms of efficiency of movement, economy of movement. He needs to be able to catch it in the post and go up for a quick hook. He needs to finish on pick and rolls. He needs those reps of playing, right? And I think the G League will be good for him just to develop a little bit of confidence, develop a little bit of understanding of where he wants to, where he can catch it and where he can be effective, particularly on offense. The defensive stuff, I don't know that he'll get the true reps, but just game speed, just because I think the jump back from the G League to the NBA in terms of offensive skill is very, very vast. But I think getting the game speed up, getting your wind right for playing real basketball games, because the G League is certainly real basketball. It's a good, solid professional league, albeit a significant step down from the NBA. So Good for everybody. Good on the Blazers for recognizing and not waiting. Good on Hansen. Good for Hansen because he gets his minutes, and good for you because you can watch these games available on YouTube, so you can check them out and see what Hansen did when he's out there actually real deal playing. So that's your bit of news for today. The Blazers also play a basketball game later this evening, a big one. It's the NBA Cup. They play the Houston Rockets. Let's talk NBA Cup. Let's talk Houston. Let's talk what's at stake when the Blazers take the court on Friday evening. Join me there in that second segment, won't you? First, though, let's talk drip drop. When you're hydrated, everything just works better. Your focus, your energy, your mood, even your skin's going to be better when you're hydrated. That's why you got to check out DripDrop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps you running at full power no matter what your day is going to look like. DripDrop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula that's trusted by medical professionals, trusted by firefighters, and over 90% of the top college and pro teams. I like DripDrop. I was recently on a cross-country flight. It's a long time in the air, easy to get hydrated. I was dropping a little bit of that fruit punch flavor into my free water on the airlines, staying hydrated, staying focused because it is a long day making it across country. But even if you're living a more active lifestyle, hydration should be a non-negotiable for you, and DripDrop helps you stop negotiating. It helps you feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just better overall. Hydration's key, and DripDrop provides the keys right now. DripDrop is offering my podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's DripDrop.com, and the promo code is LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the things get busy, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. Today's program is also brought to you by Wayfair. Holiday season is approaching. Your house might be full of folks. It means it's time to get your home ready. So whether you need more seating for guests, or you need cozy linens for that guest bedroom, or just fun serveware for holiday hosting around major meals, Wayfair's Black Friday sale is here to help you make your space shine. The best part? You don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long. Up to 70% off everything from sofas to spatulas. So whatever you're looking for, whatever your style is, there's a whole bunch of unique styles on Wayfair. Plus, they're going to meet your budget. So if you want to spend big, splashy, and get something super nice, or you're looking for something that really meets your budget because you're trying to do the holidays, keep it reasonable for the holidays. Wayfair's got you covered at every end and every style. So if you ever hosted family or friends for the holidays, you know how much a few new touches can make, and Wayfair makes those few new touches super easy. Don't miss out on those early Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale, up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. The sale ends December 7th. All right. So, Blazers on the road, headed to Houston for an NBA Cup game. Fun game for a lot of reasons. First of all, Houston's good. That's a good basketball team. They have the best offense in the league this year. They're number one in offensive efficiency heading into Friday's games. They crushed the offensive glass. They've upgraded their shooting. It turns out adding Kevin Durant to your team will help you make more shots. Even with the loss of Fred VanVleet, this is still a really good team. They play really, really big. They're good. However, the Blazers can pretty much knock Houston out of NBA Cup contention with a win tonight. I think, I've mentioned this before talking about the Cup. It's the middle of November. It's a pre-Thanksgiving game, right? Typically in the NBA, there's not a lot of juice to these. And the sickos, you, if you're listening to this, and I love you, and many of your fellow listeners and myself, I'm going to watch the NBA. I watched Jazz Hawks last night. I love this stuff, right? Hawks shot incredibly well, couldn't guard anyone. What a game, right? But I'm plugged in, right? This is for me. This is all about it. But the NBA Cup adds a little bit of juice for the non-sickos out there. If you don't care about the Cup at all, it's you're playing on a funky court. Okay, funky court, cool. Maybe some funky uniforms here in the future as teams roll out their new unis. So, it just looks a little bit different. But if you are invested, it adds juice to these November games, right? Like this game has stakes that it otherwise wouldn't have. It is either one of 82 during the long NBA season, or adds a little bit of totally artificial manufactured meaning. And you know what I don't care about? Whether this meaning is artificial or manufactured, because it's a little bit of something. The Blazers, of course, are in Group C, and Group C in the way the NBA Cup works is each teams are divided into East and West, three groupings each of 5 teams. The Blazers group is brutal. San Antonio, Golden State, Houston, and Denver. The Blazers are probably the worst team in that group. And the Blazers might be a playoff team. So it just shows you how good Group C in the West is. But the Blazers won their first group game. They beat the Denver Nuggets in a game where they played really well. Probably their best win of the season for my money. Not even probably. I believe, and I am correct about this because I have only correct opinions. Just kidding. I have only correct opinions though, and that's their best win of the year. That's their best win of the year. They found a way to beat a team that is like championship level good with the best player in the world, and they're 1-0 in the group. But guess what? The Rockets are 0-1. The Rockets last Friday lost to San Antonio. In San Antonio, lost on the road. So it's not a home loss. But if you lose twice in this group stage, the chances that you win your group are pretty slim. And the Blazers would not only hand Houston a second loss, but they'd win the game on their own. That's a big win for them, right? Like that is, it would put the Portland in the driver's seat. There's another Group C game tonight. The Golden State and San Antonio. The Denver Nuggets are idle. They are not playing tonight. So if San Antonio improves to 2-0, Blazers improve to 2-0, they're right there in a fight with the Spurs. If the Warriors go on the road and beat San Antonio and Golden State gets another like monster Curry night as opposed, like they did earlier this week, the Blazers are in the driver's seat. This is a big game. A chance to advance. But also so that's the cup angle, right? Is like Portland improves to 2-0 in the group. They send Houston to 0-2. Houston's probably out of the running to advance in the cup, and the Blazers would have a road win, which is incredibly important, and they would have wins over Houston and Denver. Those are 2 really good teams. Like those are probably the 2 best other teams in the group, although San Antonio's been very good this year. So that's like the sort of the cup stakes. But I also think this is a good one for the Blazers because Houston's just a good basketball team, and I think the Blazers have had trouble this year, sort of playing up and down to their competition. They've played a lot of close games because I think broadly speaking they're competitive enough to kind of stay in the hunt, but they're not overwhelming on either side of the ball right now. Their offense has actually been better than their defense this year so far. They're not overwhelming on either side of the ball so far to like run away and hide from teams. They're not in many blowouts. They're playing a lot of games that come down to the clutch, and they lost 2 to begin this road trip in Miami and Orlando, games that were close in the final minutes, and they were held off a charge from the Pelicans. That game was a 4-point game with 2.5 minutes left. Chance for another challenging one. Houston plays really big. They play, with sometimes you'll see them play Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr. across the front line, and Kevin Durant out on the court, and Amen Thompson out on the court as well. Like they'll play 4 dudes who are 6'10 plus, and Amen Thompson, who is like a very big 6'6". He's like he plays gigantic. Despite that's like they'll play a bunch of minutes where they're just huge, and they play a ferocious zone, and their defense has been really good. Their offense has been really good. A lot of their offense is propped up by being an elite offensive rebounding team. That was their secret sauce last year, is that they were horrendous in the half court. They're one of the 5 or 6 worst half court offenses in the league, but they propped that up by grabbing offensive rebounds. This year they've been better shot makers. They've improved. I think Alperen Sengun's just been incredible to begin the season. Kevin Durant's also very good, but they're still one of the elite offensive rebounding teams in the league. The Blazers are 4th. I believe Houston is 1st going into this game. The Blazers have struggled as a defensive rebounding team. This will be a test. I think 2 of the places where the Blazers have struggled, Houston specifically presents those problems. I don't think Portland has operated super well against zones. Now, they haven't seen a team that is probably as committed to zone defense as Houston will be, so we're operating with a relatively small sample size to say, oh, they've struggled a little bit against it, but Houston's zone is good, gigantic, and they're really committed to that style. And Houston hammers the offensive glass, two places the Blazers struggle. So even if you don't care about the cup, measuring yourself against one of the really good teams in the West, I think this is an interesting early season test for the Blazers to go against a quality opponent. See how they measure up against real quality in Houston. The other thing here that I think is notable is that the Blazers have slipped on defense. To begin the season, they were top 10 defense and looking like this is like who they were going to be. They've had some injuries, which has changed sort of the back half of the rotation. So they're playing less minutes with really good defenders. And I think it particularly shows up in their second units or their like non-starters bench groupings, right? They're just playing more minutes with worse defenders on the court than they were to begin the season. But they've slipped a little bit. And because they've slipped a little bit on defense and because of the personnel changes due to health, Matisse Thybulle and Blake Wesley specifically, they have changed a little bit how they're playing. Let's talk about the changes in their defense and what we can expect for how they have matched up recently against teams and how that might carry out as they match up against Houston on Friday. Join me in that third segment. We will do just that. First, though, let's talk DoorDash. The NBA season is in full swing, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long, whether you're watching for the highlights, whether you're watching for the mighty pinwheels, whether you're watching for your fantasy team, or just your favorite player. You really, really want to get out there and see Doo Wop Reith go nuts. DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day. And you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you actually want. DoorDash has you covered for late-night highlights, last-minute watch parties, and double OT fuel-ups. So the next time someone in the NBA scores 50 points, use the promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the Bag Drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with the promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Today's program is also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and there's no better place to get in on NBA action than FanDuel this season. Even if you miss the start of the game, or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live betting on everything from who's going to score the next point to who's going to choke away a fourth quarter lead, or put in more positive light, who's going to come back and get a win in the fourth quarter. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Find a bet you like, put down $5 on it with the confidence, and once you win, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So, head over to FanDuel.com, sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Heading into tonight's matchup with the Houston Rockets, the Blazers have slipped a little bit on defense. This was, in my opinion, heading into the season, going to be the strength of this team. I had mentioned on a couple shows in preseason that I thought the Blazers had all the tools to be a top 10 defense. That should be an expectation for this team. And if you are a top 10 defense, your chances of playing in the postseason are incredibly good based on the recent history of the league over the last 5 years. I thought that was going to be the backbone, the standard for this team. And the reason why they were competitive every single night was because of how good their defense was going to be. I really liked their personnel. They had a whole stretch last season for 41 games where they were the top five defense in the league. They were good. They've had moments when they've been very good on defense, and I thought they even upgraded their personnel in fairly obvious ways with the return to health of Matisse Thybulle, who missed almost all of last season, with the addition of Drew Holiday. And at the time, I wasn't even baking in any math about Blake Wesley, but he was helpful to their specific style of chaos and pressing. However, the Blazers over the last 2 weeks have slipped. Over the last 6 games, which is obviously like a minuscule sample size as to be largely unimportant, but over the last 6 games, they're 18th in defensive efficiency. That's points allowed per 100 possessions. Their offense has maintained its perhaps surprising position as a middle-of-the-pack offense. They've been all year long. They've been right in the middle, somewhere between 13th and 16th. They've been pretty average on offense. That's a big deal for them. If they were average on offense with how good I thought they could be on defense, they're going to win 45 games. But the defense hasn't quite been there. Some of that, I think, is the loss of Wesley and Matisse Thybulle. I really do. I think some of that is because they were able to play some of these, their first grouping, pretty good defensive group, right? With Drew and Tumani and Donovan Clingan. Clingan and Tumani have been on-off numbers suggest they've still been very, very good on defense, despite I think it might feel like that they're not playing as well defensively. I think overall they're not playing as well defensively, but still, like, Tumani and Donovan Clingan remain the Blazers' most impactful defensive players. So that starting lineup has been good, but it's when you go to the bench and all of a sudden, like, you're playing DripDrop, who's going to have his own defensive struggles just because of size, height and athleticism playing the center spot. You're going to give more minutes to Sidi Sissoko, who is a competitive defender, but he is not Matisse Thybulle, right? You're going to give more minutes to Chris Murray, who I think is a darn good defensive player, but when you're playing him next to Thybulle and next to Blake Wesley, you're putting out some really monster defensive lineups. I think Jeremy Grant started the season on fire defensively and has not been as good, although he's been totally fine since then as well. But since the part of, like, who they were at the beginning of the season was also a team that was going to press a ton. They were, at the beginning of the year, leading the league in press possessions and by some measurement, the, like, highest pickup point in the league, right? Albeit, I think if that only measures the first defender, I'm not sure that it matters, because what if they just pass it back to the inbounder and the other guy is standing at 15 feet back? Then your pickup point is a lot further away, right? But regardless, they started the year pressing a ton. According to Synergy's tracking data, the Blazers had 26 pressing possessions against the Clippers in a game they lost, 30 pressing possessions against the Lakers in a game they won, 42 pressing possessions against the Jazz in a game that they won. But over the last 5 games, they didn't really press against Denver, which makes sense because I think spreading yourself out 94 feet against a team that throws passes the way Denver can with over the top with Nikola Jokic is just like a mess, right? And they'll just let Jokic bring the ball up, and then if you're guarding him with a center 90 feet from the rim, you're in a world of hurt, right? So stylistically, they didn't really press against Denver, but I think that made sense. But in general, that began a trend of just, like, totally dialing it back. So I mentioned 26 against Clippers, 30 against the Lakers, 42 against the Jazz, right? A ton of if you think on average, you're playing, like, the Blazers are playing about 103 possessions a game. You're talking like you're talking 42 is nearly every defensive possession you play. 26 is about half. 30 is more than half, right? So over the last 5 games, they haven't even hit the 20 possession press mark, right? They haven't even pressed 20 times. They really have dialed it back. And in the last 2 games, they basically have stopped pressing. They have 6 total possessions where Synergy tracks them as committed to pressing, right? That change over the last 5 games has also coincided with an uptick in zone defense. I think playing more zone, you are less likely to press because like a true press where you're really pressing up 94 feet, it's hard to drop back from that level of pressure when your guys are going to be spread out, hugging up on offensive players all over the court, the full width and the full length into a zone, right? Like you're going to be hard pressed to get back and dial in and get into a matchup zone that works, right? That's more of a zone to man type of thing, like drop back into half court man defense. You can press a little bit and then drop back into a zone, but I don't think you can do that at 94 feet. That's more like a 3/4 court zone, show a little pressure, slow them up, make them, pass the ball a little bit, and then you can drop back into a zone. But the true 94 feet of pressure is hard to play zone defense. And as they've stopped playing, pressing as much, it's coincided with a much more zone defensive looks. They've played the most zone of the season over the last 5 games. I think these things are related. The lack of pressing has also coincided with the absence of Blake Wesley. And while I do think that has, he got hurt in that Denver game. And I do think they're probably less likely to ask guys who are not as capable as Wesley is to press. I think this is, I don't think the reason that their defense has slipped is because they've changed their style. I think they've changed their style because they've less zone, less pressing, more zone because of their personnel, and their personnel naturally was going to have, is going to be worse on defense, right? They're trying to tailor a style defensively that fits who they have out on the court. who they have out on the court are worse defenders. It all feeds itself. On the year, though, I think the Blazers have a profile that is generally decent on defense. They're not great in keeping teams off the offensive glass. 20th in opponent offensive rebound rate. I think that's a very, very, very big thing to watch against the Rockets. But also the Blazers force a ton of turnovers. They're top 5 in the league in forcing turnovers. Fourth, according to Clean the Glass. And the Rockets have been a high turnover team. So if there is a place where you can hurt them, it's forcing turnovers from Houston, although I think the offensive rebounding thing is pretty scary. And because the Blazers play such a pressure style of defense, because they go for steals, because they want to press up on teams, because they want to hug them on the perimeter and keep them off the three-point line. They're really good at limiting opponents' three-point attempts. That's like they force turnovers, they limit opponents' three-point attempts. That's their secret sauce on defense. But because you do that, because you're pressing on the perimeter to keep guys off the line and from getting shots off, and because you're being opportunistic, going for steals, pressuring, reaching, trying to create turnovers, right? Digging down and showing bodies when guys drive, you're naturally going to be a high foul team, right? And the Blazers are 28th in opponent free throw rate. They probably got to get somewhere back down in like the 20th in opponent free throw rate. Like they need to foul less, but their style is always, I think they're always going to be an above average, if not even top 10 in the league in opponent free throw rate, or bottom 10 in the league, I guess is how you want to say it, right? They're third right now in opponent free throw rate, which is not a good number to be, or 28th, depending on how you want to talk about it. Like they give up a lot of opponents' free throws. So I think they can get back to playing a little bit better defensively. I think they can play well defensively regardless of their style. I don't think they have to press to be good. I think the zone stuff can work. I think just like less full court press stuff could work. I think against Oklahoma City and the Lakers in those two games, they pressed a bunch and it didn't work. And that kind of started informing them like, okay, we got to dial it back. Like this isn't the move. This isn't the way we want to play. But they still have good defensive personnel. Like I don't think this whole ship can be sunk by the lack of Thibault and Blake Wesley, although certainly those are good defensive players, and having more good defensive players gives you more opportunity to play more good defensive lineups. But I think cutting back on fouling a little bit, I don't know that they're ever going to be a good defensive rebounding team with their personnel, but they have been playing more big double big lineups with both Duop Reith playing a little bit of power forward. They also trying to get away with zone by playing a little bit of Duop Reith at power forward. I think they can get there. I think they're always going to struggle with that, but I think there's a trade-off. If you're going to force turnovers, you're going to foul. That's just the natural part of it. But I think you dial that back a little bit. You get comfortable in there was a style they wanted to play in preseason. They're changing it a little bit, tweaking it a little bit of what style they want to play now because of changes in their personnel and changes in the injury report. But I think they can get better on defense. I think this is still a team that has, even with the current lineup, has top 10 potential on defense. They just kind of got to settle into it. And because the offense has been surprisingly good as a league average offense, they're going to be competitive on a lot of nights because they found a way that they can score and be comfortable, and they've got getting all-star level production with Deni Avdija. The Blazers in Houston tonight for the NBA Cup, and then they finish up the road trip Sunday evening against the Dallas Mavericks before heading home. The next time you hear my voice, we will talk Houston, we will talk Dallas. I'll record after that Mavericks game on Sunday evening. So look for that in your feed. Then apologies that this episode came out a little bit late. I am away from my home, and my recording schedule is a little jacked up, which means your listening schedule is a little jacked up. Come back for more shows. 5 of them next week. That's what we do. I appreciate you listening. Oh, yeah. What do I always say here? Tell your friends about the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.